So is the bull market still on or not? Bitcoin is currently trading at $107,000. It hit 110, but it just sold off. So let me share with you in this video my thoughts on where we're at. We look at the data, we look at the charts, and maybe that will give you a bit of a better insight into how to position yourself in these markets. So if you do enjoy these updates, please smash the like button. It does help a lot. It gets it out to more people. Otherwise, it just gets buried in all the content and the AI created garbage that's on social media these days. So smash the like button. Let's dive straight into it. So I think the important way to look at things right now, this is a 4-hourly chart here on Bitcoin. And what I don't really like in terms of the bullish perspective is that this might be a range setup. So what we have here is we have the high that was initially made in January of this year, and then we dropped back down. Okay, we created a low, which is basically the extremes of the range at this point in time. We came back down, we swept the range here. This was the $74,000 level. Where in the beginning of April, that was also with the 50-week moving average that approximately lines up here. So that was the line in the sand for the bulls, right? And they managed to defend it, and we got this big run up, and we swept the high over here. We went to 112,000, we sold off a bit, and now just yesterday, we retested the range high. The problem here is that for now, we retested this exact level, as you can see, and we rejected. And that is not really something that you want to see here. What we want for the bullish continuation case is we need to get above this level, and then we can think about maybe continuing higher. And then, of course, there is a case to be made that this is probably the 1.618, as you can see over here, 119, 120,000. So I do think if we can flip this level where we just rejected this $110,000 level and we can get a daily close or two above there, then it really just does increase the chance that we do go to about 120,000. But for now, this rejection, if it gets follow through, and especially for the rest of the week, if the week closes like 107 or lower, it actually does present a case that is maybe more bearish, that could take us all the way back down to 95,000 and maybe even lower than that. So that is kind of where we're stuck right now. Just technically on a kind of a lower time frame perspective, we are sitting at this level right now. Now, the issue also that I don't like to see when we see these sorts of moves towards all-time highs is that everyone starts to get euphoric again before we get the actual confirmation that it might be bullish, before we get this reclaim. Like, everyone is turning bullish right now and saying, hey, Bitcoin is going guaranteed. CNBC saying to $130,000. There was another bank, I'll put it up here on the screen, saying $200,000 Bitcoin by the end of the year is conservative. And we have all these people putting up these targets, 130, 150, 200, 250, and so on and so forth, like it's almost a guaranteed thing. And this is what we see every single cycle. Towards the top of the cycle, more and more influential people, these are people with an audience, people that go on TV, people that are well respected for their investing success in their lives, and they all start giving these high-end targets like it's a given that happens towards the top. Why are these people not giving these targets at the bottom of the bear market? Why are they not saying when FTX collapsed at the end of 2022, when Bitcoin was trading at 20K, where were their predictions then? Why were they not saying then Bitcoin's going to 130, 150, 200,000 in the next 2 years, right? If you see that, then it makes some sense, and then they actually hit that, and then it's amazing. But no, they don't make these predictions there. They're waiting for the price to go up and up and up, and towards the top, when things are starting to look good, and everyone is already up, and Bitcoin is up 5 or 6x from the lows, that's when they start giving these ridiculous price targets. And I don't like it, because usually that happens towards the tops, and the price does not get anywhere close to the 200,000 or whatever ambitious targets that they're putting out there on the media. On top of that, so we have this technical setup here. We also still very much have these bearish RSI divergences, where you can see, this is now the weekly chart of Bitcoin. You can still very clearly see there's a bearish RSI divergence here, where the price is making higher highs, but the RSI is not confirming it. And that happened also at the end of the last cycle, where the price made a higher high, but the RSI did not confirm it, and then the bear market started. So the only kind of potential thing that we might still have going is the fact that there might still be a 3 to 5 month window for the bullish scenario, where if for whatever magical reason the bulls can push through, maybe more liquidity gets injected, maybe it's a macro thing, maybe the stock markets continue to push, where there might be a chance for some sort of blow off top. But at the same time, I'm not holding my breath. I think it's, you can never say never. Maybe it'll happen, right? It would be very welcome for everyone. Everyone who's holding crypto is praying for that, right? They want the blow off top to 150, 200,000 on Bitcoin, altcoin season, and the ability to get bailed out of their bags that are underwater, and to be able to make their riches, like everyone gets rich and sail off into the sunset. And typically that is not what happens into the market. I mean, never say never. Maybe it happens this time, but personally, I doubt it, and I'm not holding my breath. So if you look at this chart, this is a visual representation here of the previous cycles, what has happened with the price of Bitcoin after the halvings. And as you can see, we had the initial cycle, which you can say probably isn't comparable because it was only Bitcoin and it was way too early. Back in 2012, peaked about 12 months after the halving. You can see it peaked, and then we had our bear market. Now the previous two cycles, 2017 and 2021, you can see over here in green and in blue, they peaked approximately 18 months after the halving. So at this point in time, we are about 14 months after the last halving, which happened in April of 2024. So that puts us right in the middle between these cycles. And historically, the longest that any bull market cycle has continued is 18 months, right? Which would mean about October or November, if this could play out. So we're at a point where, yes, maybe if we can reclaim that 110,000 on Bitcoin, maybe they can push it all through. Maybe altcoins do a 3, 4, 5x. I guess it's a possibility, and we have to wait for the chart. So we follow the chart. If that happens, there's trades to be taken, right? But what we also know is that when this happens, or if this happens, is that it is very, very quick. You can go and look on the charts in previous cycles. Even when there was that blow of top, it was a matter of weeks. The price, especially in altcoins, went up very quickly, and then a week or two later, after it peaked, was down 30, 40, 50% and never came back to those highs. So even if there is still upside ahead, which I hope for everyone holding crypto is the case, if you believe that, I wish you a lot of profits. But even if the market does continue up in the next couple of months and it goes up, it can just, after it peaks, it can just drop very, very quickly. So even if you are right about betting on a potential altcoin season or a parabolic top over the next few weeks or months, if you don't take profits when it happens, you're going to end up in the same position, because yes, then maybe you were right about the upside move, but if you didn't take it at the top and you're down 50% again, you're exactly where we are today, or maybe even lower, in a loss and without profits. And then once that top is in, the market is not going to come back. If it goes into a bear market, it's just going to drop for the next 1 year. It's going to drop like 80% on altcoins, and it's probably going to take 2 or 3 years, or maybe longer, before we get back to Bitcoin all-time highs again. That is how these previous cycles have worked. So what I think might also be playing out, this is a possibility here, is that this, what is happening now since basically December, is Wyckoff Distribution. We can get the schematic here. I'll see if I can just add it small overlaid here once I edited the video. But maybe it's playing out, in which case a potential move to that 120,000, which I mentioned, which is the Fibonacci extension basically of this move, the 1.618, would line up perfectly with upthrust after distribution, the UTAD. And that gives us our 3 thrust sell signals. So your buyer's climax, your upthrust after distribution. And even if that happens, I can see a lot of people getting trapped around 120 saying, oh, see, we're right, we're going to 150, 200. And then the bull market is over and we drop all the way back down. That is also a potential scenario. So again, nobody knows the future with any certainty. I don't, and nobody else on YouTube does. And that is the key. If anyone says for sure with 100% certainty what's going to happen, they're a red flag, because nobody knows. And if I knew what was going to happen with 100% certainty, I would obviously maximum leverage my entire net worth to be able to bet on that outcome. But nobody knows, right? If anyone knew, they would be telling that. So the whole key with understanding price action in markets is to be aware of potential scenarios and look for certain triggers that make a certain scenario more likely. So in this specific case, if we get back above 110,000 with the daily close, then it becomes more likely that we take a run to 120,000. Now, for example, if we get back below 105,000, especially with the weekly close, then it becomes more likely that we have been rejected at the top of the range and maybe we continue back into the 90s or even lower than that. So it's always about if-then potential scenarios and waiting for a certain trigger to make one or the other scenario more likely. And then you can take positions or trades or whatever you want based on that. And you can do that on all time frames. You can do that on a 15-minute chart or a 5-minute chart and take short-term trades. Or you can do it on a daily or a weekly chart and a few times a year, take positions based on that, whether it's with spot for swing trades or leverage or all that kind of stuff. So I hope you enjoyed this update. If you did, please smash the like button. Let me know your thoughts. What do you think is going to happen with crypto? What do you think is more likely? Do you think Bitcoin is going to 200K? Do you think we're near a top? Would love to hear your thoughts as always, and I will see you in the next video.